Hey everybody, what I want to share with you today is something I do that's not directly in the standards, but I think it is important for kids to understand. And also, when you're talking about who we represent and the difference between, the House and the Senate, and how the House is supposed to be closer to the people. And so I think talking about the redistricting process and how it works and letting the kids have their hand at it, I think that is helpful for them to understand. So I only spend 2 days on it, not a tremendous amount of time. But this is the presentation that I created where we just talk about what does it mean, the basic steps of how it works. You know that I bullet to 3 steps. You got to count, distribute, and then redistrict the lines. And so I have the maps in here and things for them to look at. And then we talk about the standards from various court cases. In a nutshell, the three basic standards they have to be of compact, contiguous, and one person, one vote. So once we do that, I show them, Georgia's districts. I did update that. There's our new ones so that they can see, even though Georgia didn't gain in the 2020, we stayed at 14. The line still had to change because people move and more people come in, people shift where they live in the state. And so even states who don't gain or lose a seat still have to go through the redistricting process every 10 years. And so I took the activity and modified it that they have in the teacher notes with redistricting Georgia. And so for my kids, we start out with what I call the state A. And after we just talked about that in the basic process, it's like, okay, now you just divide Georgia into 10 districts. So here they're not thinking about parties or the shapes, anything like that. They're just dividing Georgia into its 10 districts. There's 100 shapes on this map. And so they've got to draw 10 districts with 10 shapes in it. And so once they do, and I have them color it, and they have to be compact. You can see here, this one's more compact and contiguous. Then they count. So how many were won by rectangles, squares, and then how many ended up tied. And so then once we do that, I even go back to the philosophers and with Hobbes and Locke and, men being selfish and would, in a perfect world, these would just be drawn without any other considerations. And I have them brainstorm, who's drawing these? It's the state legislature. So what do you think may happen as these, get drawn? And so to get them thinking about, well, they want an advantage. And then I introduced the idea of gerrymandering and drawing the districts for political purposes, mostly to change electoral outcomes that could be beneficial to a group or to a political party. So the TED-Ed video that is linked there, I usually show that is good. And I just want them to really understand packing and cracking. This video is also good that PBS did. I usually show it as well. I like how he explains it. And so we just do packing and cracking. I don't do the kidnapping. Then and hijacking anymore. I show them some real world examples of districts in the past. And they always have fun looking at those. And so then we spend the next part of class where now I assign them to be the bulldog or the yellow jacket, like what's in the teacher materials. And so now they have to draw this map to try to make their party win. And so by doing that, as you can see, this is the same kid. This was one of my special ed kids. Their maps look different when they're trying to get some political outcome here. Their lines look completely different. And I usually tell them they can't have any ties. This one ended up with a tie, one tie. Here's one that did his original map versus his gerrymandered map. And I had them write whether they're drawing districts to benefit the Bulldogs or the Yellow Jackets. And so I think it's a real simple assignment that gets them into, having to see what, and how it changes when you look at the totals, here and how the representation changed just based on how you draw a line. And so that's something that's, simple. And then the next part that I have them do, and I'll link it. I don't think, I forgot to pull it up. Sorry. is an article from Slate, and I created an assignment to go with this. And I don't know if any of you have seen it or done it, but basically, it gives you puzzles based on actual lines, and actual districts in these states. And so you put the puzzle together, and once you do, it gives you information about that state and how they draw their districts. And you can hover over the districts, and it will tell you percent of the vote and how they voted in recent elections. This was in the 2012 election, sorry. Voted Democrat and voted Republican. And so I think that, Iowa does a good job in how they have drawn theirs, so that they're roughly half and half represented in every district. So they're all competitive, and people there have to compete more. So once you do that, there's questions for them to answer in the Google Doc that you'll see, and then they go from the easy ones to the more complicated ones. And so the kids usually have fun trying to piece these together. Some pieces are more obvious where they go than others. And every time they get their puzzles put together, then the information that they need to do the worksheet will pop up here, and it gives them a timer. I make them tell me how much time it took them to draw their map. There's only 6 of them. It's from a lot of the maps that were contested in court cases. And so this is how I kind of finish up and I give them some quotes from presidents about this at the end, to really think about, representation and democracy, having a republic, and how does this, you think back to some of those themes in government. And so I just have them reflect on that at the end. And so we spend a day on this. So 2 days altogether is all I spend. But the kids are usually really interested in it and usually enjoy this activity. So I hope you'll try it. This was blocked by our county. I had to turn it in because it's through Slate. I just had to turn it in and get them to unblock it. And they did once they reviewed it, because there's nothing, politically polarizing or anything. It's just having the kids look at the information and then answer the questions on my worksheet. So all of that will be included for you, and I hope you will try it.